Yo, what's good, guys? We're back at it again with another MLB The Show video for you guys, and today I'm going to be breaking down all of the new cards in the newest drop. We got a whole new season, we got a new team affinity with some really cool concepts. So if you haven't been on the game in a while, this is a cool little breath of fresh air. Out of position, pitchers that hit, hitters that pitch. So it's a pretty cool concept. I'm just going to loosely kind of go through and break down these cards. I wouldn't put a ton of weight on this tier list just because it's not against their peers. Haven't really got to use every single one of these cards yet. So give me some time. We're going to do infielders, pitchers, outfielders next. Look forward to those. Without further ado, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Keep it going for the rest of the year. And yeah, let's hop into it. So Nola here, I believe he has Chris Bryant. If you do want this list, it is on Twitter, The Scan. Great follow if you enjoy the more like analytical parts of the game. So starting with Nola, he has Chris Bryant swing, very good swing. Can be easy to get jammed, but it's still a really good swing. His stats are fine. That's just kind of how a lot of these OOP players is their stats are fine. You can see the power against lefties, a little lackluster, but other than that, decent enough card. Added benefit is a lot of these pitchers are typically very tall, so they filled their position pretty well most of the time. Um, Basically like having a lot of Ellies out there. So, A tier for him. Had him done. Pretty like mediocre card. It's not great. He throws a okay pitch mix. Kind of has that like Ephus Dylan Cease changeup. So if you typically enjoy pitchers like that, probably get some really good run out of this Adam Dunn card. Has Lou Trevino released too, which is kind of janky. Alex Gordon, super usable card. Historically, I don't really love Alex Gordon cards. Obviously, there's the downsides of basically having to hit lefty lefty probably multiple times a game with them. And statistically, this card isn't the greatest, but if you really enjoy those swings, definitely a usable card. Austin Riley pitcher has Garrett Cole release for some reason. Doesn't throw the greatest stuff in the world. It's a decent mix, but it's just not hard. Doesn't have a ton of break. He's almost more like a Maddox, to be honest. He's fine. Not one of my favorite cards from the drop. Barry S tier right now. I don't know if he will stay that way. He will probably age fairly poorly. But if historically you enjoy Barry Larkin cards, this is probably one of the better ones that we've gotten relative to all the other cards in the Bob Gibson catcher card. So this card is a switch hitter, which is interesting. I'm gonna put him at B tier because there's two catchers in this same drop that I enjoy more personally. But he looks decent. Don't really know his swing at the moment. I believe he is acquirable, but Dan just doesn't have it on this you know little list right here because that's only team affinity guys. Brandon Crawford starter. Not the greatest stuff in the world. Kind of like Austin Riley. Riley might be better than him. Honestly, Crawford, I'll probably drop to C tier. I believe he has two curveballs, which in general is kind of a no-no. Brandon Lau captain card. Probably like top of B tier. We know his swing's awesome, but the contact's really low. At this point in the season, if you're all an all-star, you can probably get away with it. And get away with a team build like that. I don't know how great he'll age with the captain glitch. I could see some potential in the future, but in general, not my favorite card. Suitor, great player in real life, Hall of Fame pitcher in real life. Never really that great in the game. Basically, Felix Bautista without outlier. Which, if Bautista didn't have outlier, I would use him. That's kind of what Suitor is. Harper catcher, one of the catchers I alluded to earlier, very good option at catcher. Kind of similar to like a Schwarber, for instance. They're teammates now. It's a good comp, I think. Two lefties, good swings, good power. Both out of position, basically a catcher. So always a fun card. Byron, super good. Has a good pitch mix, has outlier. He's basically Jacob Mizorowski. If you enjoyed that Mizorowski earlier in the year, or the one we got last season, that wasn't overall wise the greatest, you're probably gonna love this Buxton card. He's very similar. Has his exact motion, has outlier, basically a Mizorowski reskin. Sabathia has, I believe, MJ Melendez's swing. Statistically, this card just doesn't really um, light up a lot, especially when a lot of people are going to have like Babe Ruth at first, or they're going to run their way to that Luke Gehrig, or they're going to run one of the better first basemen in the drop. So, not really my favorite card in the world right there. Charlie Blackmon, S tier. This is a very valuable card. I believe he has Josh Hader's release. Yeah, so Josh Hader released with a 5-pitch mix. I'm gonna have to pull that back up actually. So we have a sinker, cutter, circle change, slider, and a 4-seam. This is basically Aaron Bummer with a jankier release. Absolutely a stud card. Probably gonna be in your bullpen for the rest of the season and maybe even the rest of the year. It's that good of a card. Corey Seager, if you used the live series earlier in the year, then you know. This card has less power than the live series. He's not going to get inside edge like the live series does. But he's also not a complete defensive liability like the live series was. So very interesting card, very like good card. Probably a card you're going to see in a lot of people's lineups for the foreseeable future. A card that should hold its value relatively well as a chase card. Digio, I think a lot of people are sleeping on this card, and they're gonna think he's only S tier because of all the other cards in the game relative to where he's at right now. Not really. I could see this being a lot of people's second baseman catcher for the rest of the year, barring the fact that we get like an insane switch hitter with 99 everything. Max out contact, very good power, great clutch, great fielder, and he's fast. So if you play this card at catcher, he has something that basically no other catcher in the game's gonna have. Has first pitch, dead red, breaking ball. Probably the 3 best quirks to have in the game. He is an absolute stud. And do not sleep on that card. Cy Young, right-handed Lou Gehrig. If you enjoy Lou Gehrig's swing, here you go. Here's kind of a poor man's Lou Gehrig for the start of the season. And yeah, so statistically, not that great, but if you are using this card, it's probably for the Lou Gehrig swing. Dansby, I gotta knock. Like, he's just statistically not that great. His swing is decent. The bat flip was fire earlier in the year. Don't know if it still is. But this number right here just juices his overall. If they would have left this as like 94, 95, they could put those other attributes into better stuff, is what it is. E-Train, I believe I heard he has Jose Ramirez swing, so for that reason alone, I think he's better than Sabathia. Um, Statistically, 108, 85, 78, 104. I think that's relatively close to Sabathia. So not the greatest card in the world, but it's a pitcher DH. We can pull it up here. Should be right here. Jose Ramirez question mark. It did kind of feel like that. I only used him for his moment, and it was one swing, one perfect sinker away for a home run. So it checks out. I think it probably is J Ram swing. Just unfortunately, you're stuck lefty all the time with it. Ellie, this is a tough one. He doesn't have the greatest pitch mix in the world, but he does have an outlier slider, which is a thing that only I believe John Donaldson also has. So it's a very tough pitch. You want to argue A tier maybe. Shockingly, his control feels kind of better than like Byron's, and it probably comes down to him just having higher pitch controls or something like that. But super solid card. I think should be in everybody's rotation for at least the start of the season, but he might age out fairly quickly. Felix, probably A tier. The same thing I've said for Felix cards in the past applies to this one. You're either going to bring him in and he's going to give up 4 runs, or you're going to bring him in and he's going to strike out the side. And that's just kind of how Bautista is. You have to kind of diagnose and know what type of opponent you're playing before you bring him in. And you don't really want to just be guessing. Cameron Henry Aaron. So this is a substitute for the 99. Showzone doesn't have the 99 because I don't know why. to be honest, because people actually do have the Hank Aaron already. So I don't know why they don't have it, but here we are at 99 Hank Aaron, probably the best card we'll get this season. It depends. I guess Randy's probably up there. Lou might be up there for some people. But the card looks insane. He makes some good captain teams as well. That Hank Aaron card should feed families. Hunter Green, no idea what his swing is. Statistically, not that crazy. He is 6'5". So he's going to dive on everything at short and second base. Should spear some liners at third base as well. It's looking like he's actually a two-way card. I'm not sure. I don't know why he has like pitching stats. But 102 contact left, 90 right, 100 left, 92 right with 103 clutch, and decent enough fielding. So kind of like a Cal Ripken type of shortstop. Should be a fun card. Is it meta? Is it competing with like Barry and Seager? Definitely not. But it's an option. Jackie, very similar to Bigiev. They almost have like identical stats, to be honest. Looks like a very solid card. Can play shortstop, I believe. Don't know if you'll want to do that since he is kind of short. But even in left field, he's a solid option. And historically, Jackie does get some pretty good swing. So should be a very decent card. DeGrom, not too sure what his swing's looking like. Our best guess is Travis Janikowski. I don't know if any of you have used him. If you have, you probably play a lot of BR, and that's why you would have used him. Me personally, I don't know. It feels almost like past DeGrom swings if you played years ago when the DH wasn't a thing and you had to hit with pitchers. It feels a lot like that. So if you enjoyed those previous swings, you'll probably like this card. He's a little weird because he's kind of fast, has a good arm, but he's a poor fielder. So it's almost like a Seager, kind of. It's like a Live Series Seager, basically. Arrieta, I wanted to like this card. I really don't love the swing they gave him. We can see NL Central Jorge Soler swing. So maybe I'm lying. Didn't really feel like Soler, but it's probably just because he's a different height and whatnot. Doesn't have a ton of quirks. 125 left, 94 right, 92 left, 104 right with maxed out clutch. So hitting wise and as a DH slash first baseman, he's definitely ahead of. He's probably on that Cy Young tier. It just depends on what swing you like more. I probably like Cy Young's swing a little more, but I think statistically, Arrieta knocks him out the park to where you'd probably rather use Arrieta. Honestly, Arrieta could be S tier. It just depends on how much you like that Soler swing. Cronenworth, I think he just blends in with like Adam Dunn as like a serviceable right-handed reliever. Nothing too amazing here. 99 hits, four seam, slurve, splitter, cutter. So honestly, kind of like his teammate. In real life, the can't think of his name. Throws like a slurve and a cutter and whatnot out the pen. But that's almost what this card is. So he almost substitutes for that in the Padres team. Interesting card. Cronenworth, they love to say he played pitcher in high school and whatnot. Diekman, card's decent. I think he'll age poorly. He's gonna beat up on some people until they get used to him, and until you get on higher difficulties where this walks might sink you. But even then, a lot of people are gonna be enticed to use them because of the really high clutch, because of the high hits, because of the janky motion, and how brutal he's going to be on lefties, especially just spamming away sliders. If you want to make the argument for S tier, you probably can, and maybe when we get to the bullpen and starting pitcher tier list, then maybe he will creep up to S, but for right now, I think I'm cool with just kind of hedging my bets and putting him at A. Noel, basically a home run derby card, has insane power, not the most amazing contact. 114, 90, 125, 117, 101 clutch. Hitting wise, he's almost on par with some cards from like the end of last season. It's just kind of the swing. The swing isn't the greatest with him. If you can use it, if you can look past it, if somehow you even enjoy it, you'll probably love this card. But for me, it's kind of a pass. Jonah Heim has a good swing, switch it in third baseman. Kind of similar to like a Chipper Jones from last season. 102, 91, 76 104. Doesn't really have the quirks to necessarily offset that. Max out clutch, good fielder, fine card overall. Jose Trevino. Let's see. So this is a choice pack card, actually. They give you like one choice pack when you load in, and maybe you hit the high round, maybe you don't. I think this card's fine. 109 hits. Four seam, sinker, slurve, screwball, and a cutter. So kind of nasty, kind of that like Devin Williams type of pitch mix. Um, when I saw this card, I thought it was Lou Trevino because Yankees jersey, Trevino just didn't really click, and they kind of fill similar roles and are similar cards. So if you typically enjoy that Lou Trevino, you will probably like this Jose Trevino. Uh, Henley, my pick for the best catcher. I don't think he's S tier. If you run him on the O'Neill Cruz team, yeah, probably S tier. But just yeah, they don't even have it updated where he makes that team. But 111, 112, the power is the issue. And this dead red and breaking ball do help offset it. And he does have Jorge Polanco swing. So if you really enjoy Polanco, you're going to like this card. And I can tell you his swing is absolute butter. But he does lack a power stroke, and he's going to fly out to the warning track a lot of times. 112 clutch, decent enough fielder. One of my favorite cards, my pick for the best catcher. But if you want to argue Harper, then I would definitely hear that. Cutter Crawford, think he makes S tier just because it's Mookie swing. If you've used Mookie throughout the year, you know how crazy he is. You know that statistically, this is basically the live series Mookie from the start of last season when he was on everybody's team. That's pretty much what Cutter Crawford is a faster version of the live series Mookie from last season. So if you enjoy him historically, you're going to enjoy this Cutter Crawford card. I can tell you that card does rake. Lance Lynn, switch hitting first baseman. We'll have to look at the stats. I think he's probably just an A tier guy. 105, 96, 111, 104, 102 clutch. Decent enough fielding. So when I look at this card, I'm reminded of mainly Josh Bell. So I think if you enjoy Josh Bell, you're probably gonna like this card. It doesn't really matter what swing he has, just because he's a switch hitter, so it's not gonna matter a ton. He's going to be good anyway. Assuming he has a top end swing, maybe he does kind of sneak into that S tier. Gehrig, card's insane. He's up there with like Hank Aaron and Randy for maybe being the best statistical version of a card of Lou Gehrig that we've ever seen. Stats wise, he's basically perfect. He competes with Babe Ruth. I'm not gonna say he's better than Babe Ruth, but he definitely competes with him stats wise. And they kind of gave him the Babe treatment in terms of just giving him every single hitting quirk. So should be an absolutely gross card when we can actually get to him. Manny Machado, probably just B tier with a lot of these other righty relievers. Throws a good enough pitch mix. I think it's just like default meta, like cutter, sinker, four seam, circle change, or something like that. Just kind of blends in with a lot of these other righties. We've kind of seen bullpen arms throughout the year that are very similar to him. So I think he's fine. Not going to be the greatest card in the world. Mo, easy S tier. Just kind of depends. He's almost more like, he kind of fits in that Felix Bautista mold where you have to be careful about who you bring him in against. He reminds me a lot of like Corbin Burns, where you're gonna face people that absolutely light up Corbin Burns, and then you're gonna face people that can't touch him. Usually that's kind of how Mo is. Some people hit him really well. Some people can't touch him. Really, it's about that over the top weird arm slot with the sinker, how it pops out of his hand weird. Can be a good card. It just kind of depends. So another Mo card, but this time in center field. When I use this card in moments, did not enjoy his swing whatsoever. He has Matt Holliday swing. So if historically you enjoy that swing, this card's fine. He's not going to play a good defensive center field. He has like mid 80 speed with not the most awesome reaction in the world. And you pair on top of that just a swing that I'm not personally trying to use. He's probably C. I would hear a B. But in general, I think there's way better options to play center field. Mark McGuire, I hear he's actually kind of tough. Probably bottom of A tier. Throws an incredibly hard slider. I don't believe he has outlier, but he does throw a hard fastball. Does throw a sinker, circle change, and then throws almost a max velo slider. He's hitting 91, 92, 93 on his slider most of the time, so that makes him basically automatic against like switch hitters or lefty batters. They are not going to have fun against him. And then righties on the Hall of Fame Plus probably won't have a lot of fun either. Mason Wynn goes in with like Ellie and Buxton as another outlier pitcher that we got today. It was a good 5 pitch mix, 100 hits, 108 strikeouts. Not the greatest control. It's in between like Ellie's and Buxton's. Decent enough clutch, but here we are. 4-seam with outlier, slider, circle change, cutter, sinker. So very good pitch mix. If you're curious about the release on him, we have Rizel Iglesias, which is kind of a sneaky one. If you used Rizel throughout the year, you know he's kind of janky, a little bit weird. So that probably works in his favor a good amount. This Lorenzen card, he is a 99. I don't necessarily think he's the greatest in the world, especially without knowing what swing he has. If he has like Mike Trout swing, then this card's crazy. If he has some absolutely putrid swing, then I wouldn't even worry about doing the collection. 90 contact left, 102 contact right, 102 power left, 15 right with 125 clutch. Very good fielding, but he's not super fast. So he's not even going to play necessarily the greatest center field in the world. If you want to play them in a corner outfield spot, he'll probably play pretty good defense. But overall, for a 99 overall card, not the greatest in the world, especially when you have cards like Biggio and Jackie and Corey Seager and stuff available right now, and Hank Aaron available right now. He just doesn't really match up to a lot of guys. Musina captain card as a pitcher. We have to see what his hits look like. 91, that's kind of what I expected. Good enough control. I'll elevate him a little bit. If you enjoyed the Musina cards from earlier in the season that we had, or earlier in the year, I should say, you'll probably enjoy this card. He kind of always has a weird pitch mix that some people struggle with, kind of like Outlighter. And he's just kind of a control freak. So if you typically enjoy Messina cards, this one should be usable. His captain boost might be pretty decent as the season goes on. We'll just have to see. Mike Trout. This is an easy S tier. So my words of encouragement for getting the best out of this card would be don't play him at starter, play him at shortstop or even center field, right? Use that like Jimmy Rollins theory, basically. And he's almost similar to the Trout that we got last season. Little worse contact, but it's kind of fine with where we're at in the season. 88, 93, 101, 100, 92 clutch. And he's not a bad fielder. If you want to run him at shortstop, he'll probably play a pretty good shortstop. If you want to run him at center field, I can tell you personally through 15 event games, has not been bad. Syndergaard DH, I heard his swing's kind of tough. I assume it's just like not here. Yeah, so we don't know exactly what his swing is. But 80 contact left, 101 right, 111, 125, 97 clutch. This is an all-star demon. This is a nasty card on all-star. He is 6'6", so I wouldn't be shocked if it's kind of like a Richie Sexton swing or something like that. I don't think he's necessarily S tier with those contacts, but he's easily A tier. And if you play on all-star and you don't ever plan on getting off of all-star, probably an S tier card for you. But if you get on those higher difficulties, you might get in some nasty at-bats then. Nolan Ryan, I heard he has Posada swing. I'm not 1,000,000% sure. I don't think that's necessarily, yeah, so Posada, but only from the right side. So kind of weird. It doesn't feel nearly as good when you're not switch hitting with that swing compared to just being stuck on the right. But he does have breaking ball. He does have unfazed, no dead red. 97 left, 103 right, 84, 91, 113 clutch. Good fielding, but he's just not fast, so he's not going to play the greatest center field in the world. Does have first base if you wanted to do that instead. But I think he's just kind of on par with Cy Young, where I'd probably take Arrieta over both of them. But if you got to pick between Nolan Ryan and Cy Young, then pick between those swings probably. O'Neill Cruz always has a pretty decent swing, but again, similar to Brandon Lau, this is a card that's going to struggle when you get on higher difficulties. Probably going to be an absolute god right now, but may struggle as you kind of go up in difficulty. Konerko, haven't used a Konerko all year, could not tell you what his swing looks like, but statistically, I assume he'll be in line with a lot of these other catchers. First pitch, dead red breaking ball, my three favorite. 101 left, 90 right, 95 left, 87 right. So not the greatest hitting stats in the world. 102 clutch, not an awesome fielder either. But the quirks will probably have him playing crazy. This is a card I'm kind of excited to use. And again, I think he's more in line with Bob. I think I would definitely prefer like Harper, Kinley over both of them. But if you want to debate these two, you can definitely do it until I know what Bob's swing is. Paul O'Neill, very good. Very good card. Kind of wish he could play first base. I don't making that up. First pitch, dead red. I heard his swing's really good from when we got the Derby card, but I haven't personally used him. 114, 125, 117, 104. Kind of like a left-handed Matt Holliday. Not the greatest in the field. The best spot's probably going to be DH. As the season progresses and we get better fielders in those outfield positions, this card's going to be less and less enticing to use. I think at this point in the season, it's definitely a fun card to use, but as we kind of creep through the power curve towards 99s, he's going to get less and less popular, less and less meta. Skeens is fine. Another righty catcher, kind of like Konerko. If we see the swing here, Michael Massey. So I have no idea who that is. Just haven't played a lot of BR. That's probably why. But from playing the moments with him, not my favorite swing in the world. It's kind of like a Chris Bryant-esque swing if I had to kind of put somebody to it. I think he's more in line with like Konerko, Bob Gibson, stuff like that. PCA looks pretty nasty, and the price kind of reflects that. Another outlier guy. 110 hits, which is very high at this point in the season. Same control as like a Buxton. Outlier fastball, super fast slider, sinker, slurve, splitter. So absolutely nasty pitch repertoire. Almost is like a right. No, he's a lefty, so he's almost like Randy Johnson light. Honestly, you could pitch him and Randy back to back, and basically have two Randy Johnsons. So that's kind of a scary prospect for later in. Rizal, probably top of B tier, maybe A tier. It just depends on how much you enjoyed that Team Affinity one that we had earlier in the season. I know a lot of people really enjoyed that card. For me, he's just kind of bleh, he's fine. And I think that's kind of how this card's going to be. Randy, we don't know his swing. We do know that his strike zone is incredibly high. And when I used him, I personally did not enjoy his swing. It felt slow, it felt sluggish, but statistically, he's kind of up there for this drop. 106, 104, 109, 82, 125 clutch. And honestly, a good fielder, but he's incredibly slow, so he's not even necessarily going to play a great outfield. If you want to elevate him to A, you can make the argument. I think I prefer all of these cards up here over him. Just depends on how well you get along with that swing. This Randy Johnson is a substitute like Hank Aaron for the 99 because Showzone does not have that uploaded yet. So, like I said, with like Lou Gehrig and Hank Aaron, this Randy Johnson statistically is up there for the best Randys we've ever gotten. I think the perfect game one from last year or 2 years ago might have been statistically better, but this one has like a max velo slider, which is absolutely gross. He's going to be throwing the slider 91, 92, 93 basically every pitch. Doesn't say max velo on here, but you add some parallels. Plus, when you view the card in game, it says it averages 92. I think that's going to make him maybe the best Randy that we've ever gotten. He is absolutely nasty. I think the only thing really hurting him is that we've seen him for 3 years now. Ricky, I can't deny he's S tier. Statistically, he's S tier. Very similar to like a Biggio or a Robinson stats-wise. But the swing for me, I can't do the swing. If you can make that swing work, then it would probably be a dog for you. But overall, I would not recommend it. Riley Green, easy S tier with Charlie Blackmon. Has a very similar pitch mix. Also has a Roldis Chapman release, which a lot of people just kind of struggle to pick the ball up out of. He's an absolute stud in a meta where it feels like you're going to need a bunch of strong lefties in the bullpen this season. We already got two, so that's more than you can say for a lot of the seasons so far that we've gotten. Roy Halladay, I'm gonna need a swing check on him. So it's Bernie. It's Bernie, but not switch hitting. So I can tell you from using him in the moments when you're not switch hitting with that swing, it does not feel nearly as good in my opinion. I think the underrated part of this card is he might be one of the best defensive second basemen that we get all year. And you may look at the defensive stats and kind of laugh at me, but he is 6'5". You're basically playing Ellie De La Cruz at second base at that point. You expect him to fall on everything. If you play Roy Halladay at second, you're probably not giving up a lot of tweakers up the middle. McClanahan, going back to our swing check here. Harrison Bader. So I enjoyed the swing when I used it. It is kind of weird using Bader from the left, but I can tell you that's still a money swing. I think just statistically, this card's not necessarily the greatest. 80, 84, 101, 104. So basically a home run derby card, or if you're playing the event, he'll probably be awesome for you there. But overall, would not be one of my top picks. Juan, captain card. I mean, need I say more? This is a card with 0 power. If you're using him, it's for the captain boost. If you are using him, I would highly, highly encourage you to go ahead and do the captain glitch with him, because overall, not a card I think is worth running as one of your 9 fielders. Hoffman, card looks decent. Again, I have no idea what the swing is. But 125, 108, 76, 90 with 125 clutch and good fielding and actually good speed. So just kind of depends on what his swing looks like. He is a righty, no switch or anything. A switch on him would have been crazy. But he looks like a very good card, decent enough first event reward of the season. Moving from one event reward to the other, we got the Bog Monster. Him being a reliever with 118 hits, good enough control, sinker, curveball, cutter, circle change. Basically a 3-pitch pitcher, which is unfortunate, and I think probably knocks him more in line with a lot of these other righties where he's fine, but not exceptional. Willie Mays at third. If you enjoyed that Willie Mays swing, then, you'll probably like this card. Statistically, he's not that great, though. 96, 96, 80, 81. 108 clutch. Does have good hitting quirks because he's, arguably the best center fielder of all time. Good fielding, good speed, but playing third base. So kind of weird there. Could be a fun card. Yannier Diaz, her swing is pretty decent. I'd probably stay catcher, first base, 101, 106, 105, 74. So the power against right kind of smirks me a little bit. I don't love that. 120 clutch is decent enough though. And he has 99 arm strength. So if you want to run him a catcher, he's not a bad option right now. I don't know if he's free or on the market. I haven't really paid much attention to that drop. Seems like he is a free card, so for free, don't really mind him. That Gallon, I really enjoyed his swing when I played. I think he's basically 1A, 1B with like Cutter Crawford here. And you can see he has Xander Bogaerts swing. So absolutely phenomenal swing. A lot of people historically really enjoy that Bogaerts swing. 94, 99, 70, 75, 118 clutch. Absolutely nasty in the field. 99 of every fielding stat is crazy. But unfortunately, I did not know his hitting stats were that bad. So I think that drops him to the bottom of A tier. And the swing is the only thing really carrying him. And then we got Stanky Granky. Can play catcher. That's kind of crazy. An interesting secondary for him. And we can see swing wise, Nick Allen. But that's a guess. That's not 100%. When I used him, I enjoyed his swing. Everybody I ran into in events running him has really enjoyed his swing. I think the positional versatility might make him S tier. 96, 94, 99, 98. So basically 100 hitting stats across the board, 95 clutch, decent enough fielding, and he's not the slowest card in the world. Probably more in line with like these A tier cards where he's very good, and if you want him to run him, you can run him, but I don't think he's top of the meta like these guys in S tier are. And yeah, guys, that's our first kind of drop. I know I probably missed some season award cards because I don't think a lot of people are going to be using them at this point. But hopefully I didn't miss anybody too major. And you can kind of see our tiers there. Link will be in the description if you don't want to rewatch the entire video. Till next time.